Alright YouTube, so we are back of course with some Final Fantasy news. So what we have today is there's a rumor out there currently about a Final Fantasy live action show coming to Netflix. Now this rumor comes to us courtesy of Giant Freaking Robot. It's a hell of a website name. When it comes to video game longevity and name brand recognition around role-playing video games, few franchises can claim to be in the same league as Final Fantasy. Spanning decades now, the series has seen so many iterations and improvements to the game, opening up new stories along the way. And now Giant Freaking Robot has an exciting exclusive from one of our trusted and proven sources. Netflix is continuing with its video game adaptation run and will be developing a live-action Final Fantasy series in the near future. And then that paragraph links to this page right here that's just full of, I guess, stories that they broke, scoops that they broke, that were proven accurate to kind of confirm that their sources are legit. And to be honest, that's all we have to read from the article, just that first paragraph that just confirms that they have a source that says this is happening. The rest of the article is just them kind of talking about the Final Fantasy franchise, and it's sort of some speculation on what maybe it could be. And before we hop into this discussion, we've talked before about Netflix and Final Fantasy. We did a video about like a Final Fantasy VII remake anime potentially happening. It was just a rumor. We don't know if it's confirmed yet or not, if it's ever going to happen. And we also recently talked about like the actual confirmed that is happening Final Fantasy IX anime. The point of that is that there's already this working relationship with Square Enix and Netflix when it comes to the Final Fantasy series with the Final Fantasy IX anime that is coming next year. So the likelihood of them making like a live action Final Fantasy, I think makes a lot of sense. Now, as for what this is, almost definitely it's the Final Fantasy XIV live action show. This has been known since June of 2019, so over 2 years at this point, and it's not even a rumor, it is absolutely confirmed by Sony Pictures themselves. Right here we have a quote from Sony Pictures Television co-president Chris Parnell that says, Final Fantasy XIV and Eorza are the perfect gateway into Final Fantasy for longtime fans and newcomers alike. This show is about embracing and embodying all the elements that have made the mythos such an endlessly captivating phenomenon, and it's an immense honor to be bringing all of Eorza's iconic characters, settings, and concepts, including fan favorites like Cid and of course the Chocobos, to life for a television audience. It's also important to mention that this was being worked on by Hive Mind Entertainment, which is the company that's behind the Netflix Witcher series, which I thought was a fantastic like video game to live action adaptation. So with them being the ones working on the Final Fantasy XIV live action adaptation, it can kind of calm your worry a bit. If you enjoyed the Witcher series they did for Netflix, they'll probably do a good job with Final Fantasy XIV, and you'll probably like it as well. The last update I can find for this is December of 2019, so like 6 months or so later after the last article we looked at from them, that says that the script is finished because it links to a Twitter account of a screenwriter on the series who confirms that the script is finished. So we had Jake Thornton reply to somebody on Twitter and said, Hi, updates, the script is finished and we all love it. We are having some concept art done for it, and Sony TV are on the hunt for directors as we speak. Hope to have more for you soon. And that's the last thing I'd kind of known about up until looking into it for this video, but we actually got another update from Jake in October of 2020. And he says, Hey Final Fantasy XIV fans, so as you may know, last year we announced an exciting live-action TV show based on the game. I frequently get asked for updates on the project, so here's the update. The pandemic has either slowed down or imperiled every single project in development, especially big world-building shows like ours. We continue to have high hopes, but at this time we have no real news or insight on the project's future. I know this is not the news people want, including us, but sadly that's all I can say at this time. Keep sending the good vibes, and maybe, when all this has passed, we'll get the show we all want to see, and we'll all visit Eorza together. By the way, really quickly, I haven't played Final Fantasy XIV in quite some time. I cannot remember if it's pronounced Eorza or Eorzea, but either way. And I believe that's the last thing he said publicly about this. Now, he's given us a bit of an update recently, as recent as July 19th of this year, sort of. On July 19th, 2021, he tweeted out this article about what happened to the Final Fantasy XIV live-action Netflix series, and within that article, they quote his October 2020 tweets that we just read over. So I'm assuming maybe those tweets still stand currently. And I'm assuming he tweeted that article out because he probably gets asked all the time about the series, so he kind of wanted to give a bit of clarification on what's happening. Now, to be clear here, just because he shared that article and it quotes those tweets doesn't mean that the series isn't currently being worked on. Because remember, in those tweets he said that that's all he can say at this time. So the series could be being made right now. It could be damn near finished right now, but he still can't say anything about it. Also, somebody did reply to the article he tweeted out and said, So Jake, you're saying there's still hope. Final Fantasy XIV game is doing insane numbers right now, and it's more popular than ever. This has to happen. To which he replied with a fingers crossed emoji. And just my personal take on this, the fact that he replied with the fingers crossed emoji, that could be, of course, like him having, hoping that it gets made at some point. But also, I feel like if it wasn't being made, he'd probably reply with a longer tweet of like, yeah, I do hope it gets made, man. I'm really looking forward to making this, or something like that, right? Because he was so open with giving us information before, back in 2019. He let us know that the damn script was finished, which was like pretty big information, right? So I feel like the fact that he's not saying anything really with that reply to that tweet, it kind of speaks volumes in and of itself. But this is just my take on it, of course, because I think that that's what this is. If there's a confirmed, quote-unquote confirmed rumor, whatever you want to say, live-action Netflix series, I feel like it's got to be Final Fantasy XIV. That just makes the most sense. Partially because, of course, this has existed before. This has been in the works for a couple years now at this point. But also because Final Fantasy XIV is insanely popular. And that's like the perfect game to make a series around a live-action series, because you have all the years that Final Fantasy XIV's been out. So you have all that like backlog of content you can make into a TV show. But also the fact that it's an MMO. There's going to be constant updates, right, for possibly forever, so you always have something to fall back on for content for the TV show. But you could also do like a brand new story within the Final Fantasy XIV universe, and then maybe that could eventually be put also into the video game, so you have both of these projects like feeding off of each other. Now, this all being said, assuming that this rumor's true, there's a live-action Netflix Final Fantasy series coming in the near future. It could be about a completely different Final Fantasy game, or it could be a brand new Final Fantasy project. It could be based on no other game. It's just some brand new story. Now, in all honesty, if that is the case, like it's a brand new just Final Fantasy story for Netflix or whatever, I don't know how interested I'd be. If it's not based on an existing project, one of the numbered Final Fantasy games, I don't know how much I really care. Like, I'm not really a Final Fantasy XIV fan. I enjoyed it while I played it, but I don't play it anymore. But I'd probably still watch this if it existed and it's based on Final Fantasy XIV. Just because I've played the game. Or, of course, if it's based on any other numbered entry. Except for Final Fantasy VII, as much as I am a fan of that, I don't think I want a live-action adaptation of this story. That'd also give us, like 3 or 4 different Clouds at this point. We had the original Polygon, we had Steve Burton, we have Cody Christian now, and then we'd have, like, a live-action different actor or something playing Cloud. Like, I don't think I want all that. Too many Clouds. I am, however, interested if they ever want to do, like, the Final Fantasy VII or remake anime, if that even is a thing, that ever becomes a thing. Like, I'm interested in that. You could do that, because you could have the same voice actors. Whether it is Steve Burton, or if you want to do Cody Christian, I'm fine with either of those guys. But I don't want live action. But if you do a live action based on pretty much any other numbered entry in the series, I'll probably watch it. But to be clear here, if there was a live action Final Fantasy VII show, I would absolutely watch it. I just don't particularly want that. Anyways, dude, that is pretty much the video. So I want to pass off to you guys, of course. Rumor, Final Fantasy, live action, Netflix. What do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's this Final Fantasy XIV project that's been in the works for a couple of years now? Or is it something brand new? Either way, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Once I did more of this Final Fantasy, Netflix, anything, anime, live action, we're going to cover it all. Turn on notifications. Follow me on Twitter, dashingdavidbusiness, and my Discord. Links to my works are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Rogaine, or leave it like Cobain.